Hello, everyone. My name is Denise Schwendeman, and I'm here with my friend Carrie
Oh, no, you
Dodd.
gotta stop. This takes longer. I'm sorry.
Okay, wait.
This is a new thing. No, it hasn't
Okay.
taping yet. I'll tell you. Five, three, two, go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Denise Schwendeman, and this is What's the Takeaway? I am here with my very dear friend, Carrie Donegan, and today we're going to be talking about leveraging emails for maximum productivity. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to probably ask you how much time you spend managing your emails. Is it a half hour? Is it an hour? Is it half the day? Do you get lost in your emails? Um, Emails are really interesting because they're really for us to facilitate communication, right? And sometimes we do get lost in it. And when we get lost in it, we lose our productivity. So we're no longer managing them, right? They're managing us. So today, Carrie and I are going to spend a little time with you talking about the 3 takeaways that will probably help you clean that all up. Hi, Carrie.
And absolutely. And one of the things that's super important for you to know about this show is that every show we're going to give you 3 takeaways, but you don't have to do all 3. And what's unique about this show, we think, is that unlike most shows where they're going to tell you to do something or add something or buy something, we're just going to tell you that you have enough stuff already and we want you to remove something. So hopefully that's going to make you just relax and breathe a little bit. And the great thing about this is we want you to choose. We don't want to tell you what to do. We want you to choose your own takeaway, but we're going to give you 3. So Denise, what's the 3 takeaways for today's meeting?
Okay, so this is pretty, I love all these takeaways, and this is helping me a lot. The takeaway is really take away the reaction to an email, right? We want to be proactive. We don't want to be reactive. And we're going to get into each of these in more detail with you. But for that is the first one. The second one really is more about the wordiness. How many words are we using? What are we over punctuating, right? It gets a little much for people. We really want to focus on something. So that takeaway is take away the extra words. And the third one I actually think is really beneficial to us all, and that is take away creating new responses. I don't know about you, but I always feel like I have to address each person specifically. And actually, we can come up with some really great little fingertip responses. That's it. Like they're at our
responses, yeah.
Right? They're at our fingertips, right? And so that we can just use it. But the beauty in that is we can customize it. So those are the 3, and we're going to get into a discussion about how to make that easier for you and how to make your your correspondence more productive. And get the point across and get a focus. Carrie and I were talking about it. And you know, when you're working with your children or you're working with someone and you give them multiple things to do, and what happens?
Probably nothing happens.
Or maybe one.
Maybe right? One.
Maybe, or maybe half of one. And so this is that for us is the perfect example. You don't want to put every thought in your head on this email correspondence, right?
Yeah. No, because I find when I get those emails, even if it's from someone I want to respond to, the immediate reaction that I have is, oh, that's a really big thing. I need more time. And when I need more time, it goes away. I don't even know where it goes, but it either goes down in my emails or it goes out of my mind. I don't even remember to write down, oh, go back to that email and respond to it. But what happens, Denise, when you get an email from me and I'll just say something like, what was the protocol for coughs? What are you going to do?
So that's perfect. So if you do that to me and then I go, okay, in my mind, I know what it is, but I want it written, succinctly. And right. So I will go search through my emails or search through my files and get it for you. And in that amount of time, if I had put it properly in a space that I could just send it over to you, here's 2 things it does. It takes it off my plate, right? It's done. Right. But
I only asked you for one thing, right?
Yeah. And it's timely.
This is kind of cool because you're combining 2 of our takeaways. you've already gone to the fingertip response, right? But you also were ready to respond to me because I only asked you one question, right? Did you feel a lot of stress when I asked you that question? No,
Well,
'cause you know
well,
it, right? That's the
yeah.
work that you do. You know it. Like you said, you probably know it off the top of your head. Now, what if I had said to you a long, long story about the person I'm trying to help and their health history and why they're coughing and what's going on? And then somewhere buried, I don't know, 12 paragraphs later, I come up with my call to action, which is what's a protocol for coughs? Are you going to spend that time reading through that? Or like, how are you going to react to that?
Yeah, so that's just the problem, right? What do you want me to focus on? And if you go through all that and you give me the whole story, which I don't necessarily need, right? I'm not working with that person. I mean, background is always good, but not in an email. That's a conversation. Then I might not pick up right away. And I might say, oh my gosh, that's a long email. Let me save that to a little bit later when I can really pay attention to it. And I'm with you. If I do that, I would say 7 times out of 10, I'm falling off to sleep and I think, oh my gosh, I did not get back to that person. And emails should have timely responses. So if you have to think about it, a lot of times we just put it off to the side. And that's
Yeah,
not a good thing.
it's funny. One of the things I love in Simon Sinek's books, Leaders Eat Last, I think this is the right book. He wrote so many, they're really great. So Simon, if I'm misquoting you, I apologize, but go to one of his books because it's great. And here's the information anyway. What he said was, if you feel like you need to give a lengthy response, then you should literally pick up a phone or office, like get up and walk over to someone and say, hey, I got your email. Because they're probably going to be surprised because you're going to want to have a conversation with them. And actually you'll get that done, right? That's kind of a longer response. And so I think if we become really brief with our emails, we begin to understand what email was intended to do, right? Emails, to me, it's like an order of an alert, right? If someone sends me a text message and I'm on my phone, I'm probably going to take a look at it and I hope it's going to be short. Have you ever had someone say to you, oh my gosh, I just got a text that should have been an email?
Yes.
Well, I think one of the things I want people to walk away from today is I got an email and it should have been a conversation, right? Like, don't spend so much time writing to me. It's okay. The other thing that Simon says, which I think is really important, is let's say, for example, you did have that conversation. I called you up and I said, you know what, Denise, we need to walk through this protocol with this person because they're really unique and I want you to know their health history. You could follow up, or I could follow up with an email that's short, right? That gives the response that we had on the phone so that there's a paper trail if you really need a paper trail. Because I think some people are going to buzz in here and go, well, wait a minute. The business I'm in, I need a paper trail, right? But paper trails don't have to be long.
And if you do need a paper trail, the shorter the email, the better.
Yeah.
It's just more effective. And so I think the rule of thumb is 50 to 200 words at the most.
Okay.
I think that's even a lot. 200.
Yeah. So how many lines on an email? Like if you're writing on your computer, do you have any idea, like, what does that look like? Because I'm a visual person, so I'm trying to figure out, like, is it 10 words per line? What do you think?
Probably. It's probably about 10 words per line. So, that's a good amount. And really important, I think, if you're really getting points across, you want white space.
Yes.
It cannot run all together. There's an art to that, right? You want to draw attention to the next fact. And there's a lot of interesting ways to focus on what you want to have done or answered or what you want to answer. And I just think that less is more, right? And if there's more, you're right, have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then follow up with that. Punctuation too. I think it's really kooky.
Okay.
I think we over punctuate and people are like, well, wait a second. Although formal emails are more like correspondence, right, with work, it's not a letter and it's very different. And so it's kind of the in-between point between a formal letter that you would mail out or send out and a text.
Got it.
So texts have practically no grammar. And fine. And when we were talking before, you were talking about how important it is to check your grammar in terms of spelling and running it through like Grammarly or something like that. And
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go.
no, I think that's really beneficial. So then you're not second guessing yourself.
Absolutely. I like things to be clean. And for some reason, I find sometimes like when I'm writing an email, I'll reread it just, oh, I sent that. Okay. Did I mention that? Is that what I wanted to say? And I find that typo. For me, the big typo is you instead of your, or your instead of you. And for some reason, when I type, I don't know, I miss a letter. So I copy and paste whatever I write. I throw it through Grammarly because it's only like 5 or 6 lines. And it instantly shows me where I have too much punctuation or I'm too wordy or what's going on. And then I throw that right back in the email. Now you taught me something really interesting today. How long should you spend composing an email? 1 minute.
1 minute.
That was so shocking to me. I don't know if that was shocking to our audience, but that was so shocking to me.
So what does that look like? That means, especially if you are sending the email, and you know who you're sending it to and what you want to convey,
right?
You should have those fingertip starters.
Right.
So maybe it's an event, right? And you have it to store, you can pull it and it's dear so-and-so. And you should always use the person's name. This is to make it personalized. You should be formal, but personalized. So you could say, dear so-and-so, you could say, hi, so-and-so.
So a text, no salutation, no close, right?
Not really.
Email, you have to have a salutation and you have to have a close.
Absolutely.
But it can be short.
Say it again.
It should be short.
It should be short and it should be the name. It shouldn't be like dear madam or dear sir.
Okay. Whom am I concerned?
No, that's a letter that we used to send years and years and years ago, right? And we may still send letters today, but that's not appropriate for an email. And so what you want to make sure is that you are keeping it sweet and, short and sweet. You are addressing them by name. You're not calling attention to things like, as we discussed before. This is not a good thing because then they have to think, oh my gosh, let me read through the email. Make it easy for people. If you want to say, as we, discussed prior, X, Y, and Z, then fine. Okay, we talked about this. I don't like for people to say, just a reminder. It does something to me like, oh, I forgot to do something. I would rather someone say, hey, I want to circle back around. Can we get this information, right? But the things we were talking about before, simple things like you're inviting people to events. This might be 30, 40, 50 people. I never send an email to 50 people, ever. And I know it takes a lot more time and I know it's a lot more efficient, but I like to send one-on-one. So if you have a service that does that, then use the service. But I like it to be one person and to have their name on it. But you can have the fingertip kind of template waiting, right? It can be, dear, I don't know, Victoria, we're having an event on the 25th of this month. It's at this place at this time. We're featuring a speaker and the speaker. You could have it always there, and anytime you were going to send this invite, you would have it ready. Something as simple as what you do for a living, how your business works. Get that all down. It saves so much time. So you go back to that minute, then you truly are taking a minute, maybe 3 or 4, right? But you're not spending 15 minutes on one email because you're starting from scratch every time.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I also think that if you can organize your emails into a couple of different email addresses, I know we kind of touched upon this when we first started talking about the subject, right? And I said, so Denise, how many emails do you have? And let's just say I have more than you do.
I don't think that's true, honestly, but okay.
And I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to throw out a shout out to my brother-in-law, Paul Donegan, because he was the one who taught me this. He said, look, email boxes are a really good way to organize your life. And so if you like to shop in certain stores, then just get a free email. And that's the email that you use in that store. not that one store, but like all of the stores, right? I mean, my gosh, I guess if you're a really big shopper, maybe you want to have multiple emails, but I'm just going to say one. And then if you have one for work, and then maybe you have one if you have small kids and you're doing a lot of children's activities, or maybe if you're in some social things, right? And you want to do something for social. That's 3 emails. But can you imagine if you took your inbox right now and you chopped it in thirds, right? And when you're working, you're only looking at work emails. And when it's Saturday afternoon and you want to buy a new blouse, then you just go to the shopping one, right? And you see all the sales. Whereas you're not interrupted one from the other. Like, I try to think of myself as pretty disciplined, but honestly, if I'm working on something at work and then my favorite store sends me a coupon or a promotion,
It's
I'm
distracting.
like, oh, it's only 5 minutes. I'll just click on it. Right. But that's not good, because now all of a sudden my productivity's gone. And then once I get shopping, I feel guilty. I probably don't buy anything anyway. And then I don't remember where I was working. But if I know I can divide that stuff out, then more gets done. Even more shopping gets done.
No, and so I agree with that. And here's the problem with having one email, because currently that's what I have. The problem is that, especially over the last 2 years and everyone being inside so much, emails are now very important. So your email address is incredibly important to people. They'll say it's money, right? That email address is money. And so if you find yourself getting multiple emails from one company a day, okay, so multiple, or even a week, and you're always passing them up, right? You're always saying nope, or you're deleting them right there. It's seriously time to take a look and start deleting and unsubscribing. I mean, we need to look at this, because it is really a time investment to even go through and delete them. So if there's something that you're getting, I personally get a lot of work, like how to do funnels, how to create emails, how to be better at social media, right? And all these people are really terrific, and I've probably learned something from every one of them. But when I'm getting 2 emails a day from them, it's too distracting. It just is. And so I end up actually going in and unsubscribing. I have to, but I really love Carrie's idea, and I'm going to have to do that. I think for all of the promotional things, I'm going to use a completely different email address, and then all the purchasing things as well, because it's just too time consuming. My eye gets, keys in on something, and then, oh, well, like Carrie said, let me just look. And it's never a just let me look. All right, let me read it. But I will go back to the length of emails. If I open an email and it's a page long, or it's one of the ones that you have to press and then they go into a video.
Oh, I hate those.
I delete them right away. I'm like, nope, I cannot go down that rabbit hole. Nope.
No. And one of the things that I remember, and this is going to just show my amateurish nature when it comes to technology, but I remember when I first got email and I opened it up, and I was used to typing on a typewriter. Yep, there's my age. Okay. So I pull up the screen and there's the blank piece of paper. And all of a sudden I realized you have to scroll to read to the bottom. Mm. And to me, someone who was used to reading by flipping, right, not scrolling, it was very off-putting, because sometimes I would forget, oh, there might be more information below. And so I think, in a way, if we could go back to that mindset, that if someone opens up the email and they can't see what you're trying to say, the email's too long. So when I compose something, if I start to go off the screen, then that's a big red light for me. That's a big caution sign.
It's a good rule of thumb.
So
that's a really good rule.
I think even if you don't want to count the 200 words, if you're typing off the page, and you start to see that moving up, then start deleting. Yeah.
I agree.
Maybe it's 2 emails, maybe it's 3 emails. And that's another thing, that I think we touched upon a little bit, but you may have a lot to say to someone. Break it into points, and maybe you're not sending them 3 emails in rapid succession. Maybe I'm sending one today and one tomorrow, and then it feels like a conversation, right? you give me something and it was easily answered. So the next time I ask you a question, you're not like, oh, she's emailing me again. It's going to be one of those long emails. You're like, oh, I'm going to answer Denise's email because her question is going to be short, sweet, to the point, and I'm going to be able to help her right away. And that's going to make me feel good. And that, it's sort of like phone calls. Do you ever notice, like, you could pick up, I know, like with you, I pick up the phone with you every day and it's so easy to talk to you, but I know I have other people that I need to talk to, right? But those phone calls aren't that easy. Either they could be too long, or maybe they're too difficult, right? We all have those things. But don't you think that's true in emails too? So like, if you become the email that everybody wants to open, then guess what? You're being proactive, right? Which is another one of our points that we wanted to touch upon a little bit more. Like, being proactive means that you're in the driver's seat. It means that you're the one getting your goal met, right? And I always like to think of work almost as a highway, because a lot of stuff comes at us that we're not expecting when we're working, especially as entrepreneurs. And both Denise and I are in business together. We're also entrepreneurs in our own right. And I think one of the things that we see all the time is that if you're on this highway and you're getting to your destination, there's all kinds of exits, there's all kind of interference. Sometimes there's weather, right? It's all of that. And if an email is, to me, is like one, like when I open up my email box, I keep saying to myself, am I still on the road? Am I still on the road? So not being reactive. Not being reactive means that you can actually quickly decide when you open up an email, is this or is this not part of my goal for today, or my goal at all, right? I mean,
I just want to butt in here for a second.
yeah.
It also is, you could get an email and it can hit you in a really bad way.
Oh.
So that's, something that hits you and you're like, wait a second. And you can either get really upset or really angry or really frustrated or agitated. That's never the time to answer that email.
Yeah. So how much time do you put in? Oh, that's an interesting point, because we were talking about reaction. We were just talking about distraction reaction. But I love what you're bringing up now. You're talking about emotional reaction, right? So there's distraction reaction that takes you away from your goal, but then there's emotional reaction that changes your mood.
Completely changes your mood. And you know what's really interesting? People never intend for that. And I think it's more about the receiver's perception than the person who sent it. There's rules of thumb, like you should never, like, I can be sarcastic when I'm in front of someone and joke around. You can't do that on an email, because people don't get that kind of high sarcasm through an email. And so instead, you've already put them on like the defense, right? They're already like, wait, what does that mean? So yeah, I think, okay, there are rules, right?
Okay.
You should never answer that. You should actually either sleep on it,
okay,
or step away from it, certainly for a good amount of time, or ask someone about it. Or maybe that's a good time to pick up a phone too, right? If it really, but not.
Yeah.
But
It could be. That's still reactive though. That's still reactive. So like, if you're in one of those power hour work phases and you have 3 big things that you want to get accomplished, I would even say discipline yourself. I don't know, put a little star by it or check mark, or I don't know, maybe you have like a pad of paper with you and like write down return email from Denise or whatever it is.
The next day.
But I guess not opening it up saves your emotional state, and you stay, out of your limbic brain, right, into your thinking brain, which is where the greatest work comes in. And if you're in a good mood, then you're going to have better outcomes for your work.
But all your emails should be positive.
Do you smile? Do you smile when you write? I had someone train me to do this once, and I thought, oh my gosh, is somebody watching me? But they were like, okay, before you sit down to write, like, big smile, get into a good mood. I don't know, look at puppies. Denise has the cutest dog, by the way. Maybe someday we'll get Finn on the show. But like, sit down and say, okay, I'm in a good mood and now I'm gonna write. Don't sit down and write when you're grumpy.
No, it doesn't. It comes through, especially, over the phone, of course, but in your writing, it comes through too. You're absolutely right. And there's no call for it. Everything should always be in a positive light, regardless. It's just people respond to it better. And then you're pushing, you're passing, you're not pushing, you're passing that good mood onto someone else. Absolutely 100%. I just think it's, look, we're in business, but we're in relationships in business. And so you can keep the tone, and the tone should always be one of kindness and gentleness and patience, right? You should not treat it like some people treat social media, where they can say things online that they would never, ever, ever say in person. That has no place here. It has no place anywhere, but it has no
Anywhere,
place
yeah.
here. Right. And so when you're thinking about what you're sending, remember, make it short, make it focused. You don't even have, please leave out, and I'm a bad one at this because I really want people to know I care about them, but it's not really the time. Leave out, hope you had a good weekend. All of that can go away as long as your tone is kind and you're working on, you're very clear, and you're working on helping them focus to what you need or what they need. I mean, it's just as simple as that, honestly.
I think I have a compromise for you. If you want to throw that nice, kind, warm, relational piece of who you are, right? Because that's a big part of who you are as a person. Why can't you throw that into your call to action? So hearing from you today would make my day. Something like that. Right? So I'm trying to get something back, but I'm also showing that person how important they are, which is what I think you're getting to when you're saying, I hope you had a good weekend.
I love that, actually. That's like someone asking you to do something and knowing that it doesn't fit into your schedule. And we talked a little bit about this, right? And just stepping back and saying, I'm really honored that you asked me and you considered me. At this time, it's really not going to work for me, but I'll keep it in mind. And if I speak to someone else, I'll pass it on. Like just something easy like that, so that you're answering their question, but you're making them understand that you're not available at this moment.
Right. And you're never closing the door, right? In relationships and with all human beings, no matter what mood you're in, we keep all the doors open because we never know. But we do have to close today's door because we're coming to the end of the show. So again, just to wrap up really quickly, best way to get productivity out of your emails, maximizing, leveraging emails for your productivity. Number one, you want to keep it short words, 200 or less. If you can't write it in a minute, it's not probably an email, it's a conversation. Get those fingertip emails ready so that when you need to get a response out, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And be proactive. The email box is supposed to work for you. You don't work for it. And that's really, really important to keep you happy, right? And the last thing, of course, is always be in a positive mood when you write or correspond with anyone under any medium, right? Any circumstances. All right. So keep on it. If you want to reach us, and you can always comment. And because we're on YouTube, we want you to subscribe and we want you to like what we're doing here, please, and share the word, and go ahead and also email us at
What's the takeaway?
@gmail.com. All right. We'll see you next week, Tuesday.